You're now watching Sports Bettor's Paradise on the BetRivers Network.
All right, it's Jimmy Ott along with Paul Stone in our weekly handicapping seminar, if you will, our conversation in college basketball. And you know what? That's a strong statement when, outside of work, you still spend time together. So I pick up the phone and call Paul Stone last week. I said, Paul, I don't bet over-unders in college basketball. It's hard for me to pull for dribble, turnover, turnover, okay? Because I'm an under player. But I watched that Friday night game in the Big East, 99-98. All I needed was Creighton was a money line parlay, and they couldn't do it. I'm like, these coaches have to stress defense the second time around. I looked at the total the first time compared to the second time. The total was increased for the rematch about 11 points. I said, Paul, you think? He says, absolutely. There's some value there. Second time around, when you see an extreme game, maybe a game in the mud, maybe a Virginia game the second time around, or like this case, do you see sort of a flip-flop? Sometimes we see it in the NFL divisional rematches.
Yeah, Jimmy, I think you're always looking for any small edge you can find, and I think we expect, in a rematch of a conference regular season two-game series, you expect a regression to the mean, things to get a little bit closer to the norm, and sometimes we'll see these score fests. If you see a team in a game, for instance, from the three-point line, maybe that's 13-25 in the first game, you don't expect them to shoot 52% from the three-point line in the second game, especially if they're playing on the road the second game. So we expect things as bettors to regress to the mean, to get back to the norm, and that's certainly what happened in that Creighton game that you referenced and identified last week. Like you said, that line had moved up a game that was played in overtime, but the total moved up 11 points, and that's just an incredible adjustment. And if for no other reason, a great opportunity to take an under. And, if it would have gone over, I don't want to say so be it, but you certainly had value there. And that's what we're looking for as sports bettors is value. And you had it on your side, and it came out, to your benefit.
Yeah, a comfortable win to the other. It got me a little concerned when the wider the margin, then it gets a little looser, those games, and sometimes it can fly over a little bit more than a tightly contested game, but it still went under very easily. So assist to Paul Stone. Dropping dimes. Very good, Paul. So we go back to a couple of things that we did. I'm pretty proud of the fact that a couple, first of all, the court rush fade or the sort of the game of the year win, your win of the year, followed it up. The hangover effect, which it's college sports. You invest a lot of emotion. Well, you have that much less your next game. And, man, if didn't UConn have the best win of the year against Marquette, they get blasted at the run at Creighton. Now we see what Creighton will do on Sunday, although there's a Patino element in that handicap that may throw that out the window. His team is quitting on him already, and I think they started in the second half on Sunday night against Seton Hall. Even in the smaller conferences, in the American, where South Florida extends their winning streak, and they storm the court when they beat Florida Atlantic, a Final Four team from last year. They struggle at Texas San Antonio, do not cover. Although the line was a little tighter, than we anticipated. The odds makers tighten it up a little bit. So that is happening. That is real. The emotional carryover or letdown after a big win. LSU's got that to deal with now after they stormed the court against Kentucky. The other one is buying the half point, and I stress to you that it's just BetRivers offers it. When it's a half a point between 1.5 and 6.5, buying it to the whole for 10 cents. Some competitors don't allow it at all. Some charge you a minimum of 15 cents. This is the only one that's offering you that option. When only one provider offers you that option, you got to consider it. And that's where we get to our next one and thing you want to talk about this week. And that's rankings. Thank God that we don't have to rely on rankings to decide national championships and things like that. I mean, can you believe there was once, not that long ago, 20 years ago, Auburn, an SEC team, went undefeated and didn't play in the two-team playoff. That's right. They were left out because the preseason rankings with Oklahoma and USC. The rankings, thank God they do. Oh, man, they don't mean much. But they can be a useful tool in handicapping, Paul.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what we are going to talk about today, Jimmy, is just looking at teams that are ranked. I think those teams, I guess my point being kind of to backtrack, generally speaking, I think it's advantageous to fade these ranked teams when they're playing an unranked team or when they're playing even a lower ranked team. I think it's clear, it's my belief that you pay a tariff, you pay a tax when you do bet on a ranked team, especially a highly ranked team. Some of it obviously due to the fact that you're always the hunted and rarely, if ever, the hunter. And not that these ranked teams, I want to stress, not that these ranked teams are not going to ever cover. Certainly they're going to cover some
Right.
games. I mean, they're talented. They will cover. But as sports bettors, again, we're always looking for a series of small edges to accumulate in our corner. And I think, fading ranked teams is one of those. I've always said when the public bobs, it's probably a good idea to weave. And also, if you look at things as everyone else looks at things, you'll probably end up like everyone else, which is maybe not a good thing in the betting space. So you want to search sometimes where others fail to search and examine things perhaps that others fail to examine. So looking at these ranked teams, and this is a small sample size, we're only talking about 16 games here, but from this past Sunday, which was February 17th, through last night, which was Wednesday, February 21st, so over those 4 days, 16 games, and the unranked team versus the ranked team or the lower ranked team is 12-3-1 against the spread in those 16 games. So, really, again, a small sample size, but quite impressive. I think it's something to take note of. And in that 12-3-1 against the spread, home underdogs 6-1 against the spread during this 4-day span, and that includes 5 outright winners. So if you'd have bet these teams on the money line as well, that would have been an additional winner. And the 5 teams that have won outright as home underdogs against ranked teams were dogs of 2.5, 3.5, 6, and 2 underdogs of 7.5 points. So there have been some pretty good, payoffs there. We've got 19 games coming up this Saturday, the 24th. 19 games featuring at least one ranked team. And then the following day on Sunday, the 25th, we have 3 more of these games. So I think that's something to look at. Everybody thinks the ranked teams are the best teams, so they tend to look more at the team than the number. So I think there's some value looking at the other side.
And at times I forget it because I'm diving a little deeper, and I forget this. And a friend will remind me, unranked team favored over a ranked team, beat them again last night, And so I think it was Monday night of Virginia Tech, Virginia. I mean, we do it in college football. So it's not an auto play, but you got to, okay, let me look into this matchup. And that's what you do. And so, you can't bet 19 games auto play, just with this. But you can look into them. There are a few that you're looking into. How about this? Coincidentally, all in the Big 12. 3 of those in the Big 12 that you spotted out for examples using these projected lines.
Yeah, and 2 of these are gonna fit our sample size here, our hypothesis, if you will, of teams going up against a ranked team. So one home underdog that I like, first of all, in the Big 12 is going to be Kansas State hosting BYU this Saturday. I project Kansas State to be a 2.5 point home underdog. Kansas State, first of all, must point out the Wildcats have lost 7 of their last 8 games, but they have mostly been good at home. They're in the Little Apple. They are 11-3 at home this season. That includes wins over Baylor and Kansas. BYU, not quite the same team away from Provo as in Provo. So I like Kansas State plus 2.5 over the ranked Cougars there in Manhattan. And then looking at Central Florida hosting Texas Tech, a ranked Texas Tech team on Saturday there in Orlando. Tech, again, not quite the same team outside of Lubbock. These 2 teams played 2 weeks ago in Lubbock. UCF only trailed the Red Raiders by 1 point with 2 minutes to go. So they were competitive against the Red Raiders 2 weeks ago in Lubbock. I think they perhaps get the outright victory this Saturday, hopefully getting 2 points or more against the Red Raiders. And then Oklahoma, is going to be traveling to Oklahoma State, where they will be a small favorite. Oklahoma no longer a ranked team, rather, so they don't totally fit what we're talking about today. But since it's in the same conference, I think we'll just go with a 3-pack. And I like Oklahoma State plus 2.5, maybe 3 points over Oklahoma on Saturday. This is the final regular season meeting between these two rivals, with both as members of the Big 12. Oklahoma State, these two teams played 2 weeks ago as well. Obviously, the last time in Norman, Oklahoma State lost that game by 4 2 weeks ago, but they actually led by 4 points with under 5 minutes remaining. So they were quite competitive in Norman 2 weeks ago. I think they're going to beat the Sooners on Saturday. Gallagher-Iba Arena going to be rocking. That's an underrated fan base. They are a tough lot. Stillwater, a tough place to play, whether it's football or basketball, or probably even baseball for that matter. So I like Oklahoma State to send Oklahoma off to the SEC with an L there in Stillwater this Saturday, the 24th.
We saw a little extra juice in that football version of Bedlam, didn't we, this year as well? They were sky high, and yeah, you have it. Also, a couple of other elements to add on to your handicap, and at Oklahoma's form. We use this a lot in golf handicapping, but, form. I mean, Oklahoma State beat BYU and won at Cincinnati. They're playing their best ball right now, and their fans have a little extra to feel excited about, adding a little juice to that. Not that they need it with Oklahoma coming in. There's not going to be empty seats in that building for that one. The other one has to come as we come with all this geographical, the conference realignment and all these geographical splits. I'm looking at BYU, and especially in that 10-point loss in Stillwater. They were never in it. They have a little bit more than they're traveling than what they're used to, and more that they're traveling than their Big 12 counterpoints. And I'm seeing it. They're 2-3 straight up on the road, 1-4 ATS. But as we get deeper in the season, I think that home and away split is only widening a little bit because of the travel. And you throw in there, it wasn't a court storm, but it was a comfort behind, excitable, emotional win against Baylor earlier this week for the BYU Cougars also. So rankings, what are they worth? I don't know. Square bait, chump bait, public bait, whatever you want. They're going to let you know a lot of times where some of the the odds makers know they're going to get some of that ranked action when it comes to some of these games. So 19 of them. There's 3 in the Big 12 that Paul is looking at. We do it each and every Thursday in handicapping all the way through March Madness. For Paul Stone, I'm Jimmy Ott. This is Sports Bettor's Paradise on the BetRivers Network.